Hey, afternoon, everyone. This is the Fullerton School District, and we are talking today about home cyber safety and online safety, cybersecurity. What you're going to see on your screen are 3 QR codes, one for English, one Spanish, one in Korean, and it's actually a Google phishing quiz. So not phishing like to catch fish, which a lot of us here in the district love to do, but phishing with a PH, and that is when someone attempts to get your information or steal from you. By sending you fake emails. So go ahead and point your phone at the screen at one of these 3 codes, and then if your camera is on, you should get a little box that says, hey, click me, and you click there and you can take this little quiz. It's pretty neat. So I'm Jeremy Davis. I am the Assistant Superintendent of Innovation and Instructional Support. And then a little bit later, you're going to be hearing from Joshua Holmes. He's our Director of Networking, Information, and Data Systems. And together, we do this presentation for PTAs, for DLAC, but also in the evenings as part of our Safety Wednesdays that we were doing from the beginning of the year. But we thought we'd also put this online for any PTA to watch or anybody to watch at home. A couple of months ago, right at the beginning of school, you probably got a number of emails. If you're a parent, you got a number of emails from myself warning you about a problem with Seesaw. Seesaw is a great program. They do communications for our K-2, K-3 students at most of our schools. However, we got up that morning and started getting texts and calls that there was some kind of problem with Seesaw. And what we found out was it was actually an attack. We thought at first they had gotten breached, but they hadn't, because if they'd gotten breached, then every parent account would have been impacted. But what happened, what we eventually found out was it was something called credential stuffing. What happens is your information is probably out on the dark web somewhere. I hate to say, but your passwords for your email accounts that you've used somewhere on some app sometime is probably been hacked and then sold out on the dark web. So the bad guys, whoever they are, went ahead and used some of that information to try and log into a program called Seesaw. And 12 of our parent accounts sent an inappropriate naked picture to 12 of our teachers. We think they weren't hacked because it only happened to 12. And Seesaw came out. They did a great job, by the way. Some companies wait like a month to tell you there was a problem. Seesaw told us there was a problem immediately, told us how they were going to fix it. And they were in communication with us through email and with the whole country about every hour to 2 hours as they solved the problem and investigated. So I really praise them for doing a great job. But that credential stuffing is one of the big hows. Like, how is this happening? How are they attacking us? So I want to take you all to a website called haveibeenpwned.com. This is how you sort of figure out if your data is out there in the world. And being pwned, it's sort of, there's a slang term happens in sports where they say, ooh, I owned you on that play. Like, you got an interception in football or you struck somebody out. This is a little different. In the tech world, they call it being pwned. So P-W-N-E-D. So I'm going to show you, if we click on that site, what you do is you type in your email address. So I'm going to type in my personal email address, and my amazing director of innovation, and my coordinator. I have this amazing audiovisual team that do wonders. They're going to blank that out so you all don't email my personal. You can always email me at work. You can find me online. Again, Jeremy Davis, but just not my personal one. Thank you. So I'm going to see if I've been pwned. So I click that. Uh-oh, I have been. Okay, and I've had this email address. My wife and I actually share this email address. We've had this for probably 18 years. So I expect that I've been owned at some point or pwned. And it tells me 7 data breaches. It says found no PACE that's subscribed to search sensitive breaches. But breaches I was pwned in. So this data enrichment, LinkedIn, I'm a member there. LinkedIn data scrape. This wasn't even really an attack or a hack here at LinkedIn. What happened with this was, people put so much data on LinkedIn, like birthday, where you work, what school you went to. You have a lot of friend connections through LinkedIn, that people just scrape that data, meaning they write a program where it grabs all your information, where all the places you've worked, where'd you go to school, and now it sort of makes a database where people can guess passwords based on that. So There's my Fitness Pal, Park Mobile. If any of you guys have ever used an app to pay for a parking spot, I believe right here in downtown Fullerton uses Park Mobile. Down at the beach, down like Newport Way, if you ever go down to the beach and need a park, that's Park Mobile there. So these were all hacked. And what that means is there was a problem. They found my username and my password together. And then someone probably took this and sold this information out on the dark web. So this is why you never use the same username and password for like the bank that you do for the apps you don't care as much about. But even looking at this, you might say, well, gosh, Park Mobile, they probably add your credit card. So now you've tied it to something financial. Could somebody log in and get your credit card number? It's possible. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why we don't do some of these things and how to have better passwords.
Again, my name is Joshua Holmes. I'm the Director of Networking Information and Data Systems. And again, what we're going to be talking about today is why is cyber safety important? What are some cyber threats out there? And how can we protect ourselves and our family? Starting off now with why. Why is cyber safety so important? If you think about it, if we look at every device or everything that we get access and do today, we have either a computer or a cell phone. Never ever before has there been a connection to the internet than there have in the past years. Now cyber threats are increasing more and more because of this very fact. Another reason why cyber safety is so important is because cyber threats look like this. They come in looking like something that's possibly tasty, appealing, something that smells good, looks good, and at the very last second, it's something that you didn't expect. Like this pizza coming in and now looking like her baby food. So one of the things that has been so difficult is to tell if a cyber threat is real or fake. So that's another reason why it's so important. Another more important factor now is that in the past, we should think that cyber threats were done by hackers that were just hiding in an office or in a garage or hiding in a remote location. But now we've discovered even more so than ever that this is a big business. $161 is how much it costs per personal identifiable information that is lost. It takes about $4.2 million for a organization to recover from a breach in their network when it comes to a cyber incident. For 25, now the curious and interesting thing is that 95% of these attacks that are successful are by user error or some type of user intervention, whether that's clicking, whether that's opening, or whether that's putting in your credentials. And it's already been 11 seconds, but every 11 seconds, a successful cyber attack has occurred. So this is no longer a single person, quiet silo job. This is now corporate billion-dollar organization, and it now has increased more so than ever before. So that's why it's also so important. Now, what are some of the threats out there, common threats? Well, before we go into what are some of the common threats, one thing is really consider what cybersecurity is as a philosophy. And to help us understand that, it's good to look and reference something that we can understand, an analogy that compares to something we're familiar with. Let's think about home safety or home security. Now, at a home, if you want to keep it safe, you may make sure that you have locks. You may make sure you have a gate, maybe security camera. Maybe if you have a toddler, you have baby bumpers, or maybe things that stop the plugs from being able to be touched. Now, if you had maybe a teenager, if you gave them the keys to your home, if you gave them the code to get in, and they were to leave your home, leave your door unlocked, and also give that key, that code, the security code to someone else, would your home be safe? No. So that tells us that cyber, in this case, home safety, involves more than just certain tools. And likewise, cybersecurity, cyber safety involves more than just a product. It is a practice. With that teenager, it would involve a conversation explaining how to keep the home safe, not to leave the stove on, not to give out these keys and security codes. Also, when it comes to cybersecurity, there can be products you can buy, but remember, there's going to have to be a conversation. There's going to have to be something to apply, a practice of how to keep yourself safe on the internet. What are some common threats? Well, some common threats out there are spyware, phishing, where they sneakily gain your information. Another common threat you may have heard of is malware, where they break devices to spread viruses. And then also there's ransomware, where they hold your file for ransom. So they take a file that you want or need, and they won't give it back to you unless you give them money or some type of service of some sort. So if you look at these, what do you think is the most successful attack or cyber threat? I'll give you a chance to think about it. Maybe you guessed it. Phishing. Phishing attacks are the most successful attacks because 90% of cyber attacks infiltrate an organization by email. So that's something to think about, because the way a phishing attack occurs can be applied to many other areas. Now, what are some of the current tactics out there? Because this is very critical to understand how it works. So to make them successful, these cyber attacks, a lot of times they get they get that sense of urgency, and they increase it by really getting to something personal, making it a monetary loss, or making it look like a good idea. So you may get these attacks where they get you excited, and you're urgently cautioned, you're scared, whether you're excited or whether you're afraid. They get you to not think too clearly. So a lot of times they're threatening maybe your computer is going to crash, or if you don't install this, or if you get this, you're going to make this absurd money, or if you get this, you may even get a scholarship. They use these things, and at times even send it from trusted sources to fool you, but they catch you because they want you to act before you can think. So they increase the sense of urgency, and they come from personal sources that maybe even be people you know after they've hacked one person and they've jumped to another. So with those current tactics, what are some of the methods they use to ride this to and get this to you? Well, some of the current tactics maybe in that email, they may send a misleading URL or a domain where it goes into a location that was not what it looked like. Or it could be an install of an application. It could be an attachment that opens up wanting you to do something to your computer. These are just methods that are very common that you download, you do what it says thinking it's going to help you, and then you find out it doesn't. Simple tactics.
Josh is going to take a moment to tell you a little bit about how to find out if your usernames and passwords on your iPhone or on your Android have also been found out there somewhere on the dark web.
How can you find security compromises on iPhones? Well, it's simple. Go to Settings, go to Passwords, and then click Security Recommendations. Now, what you're going to find here is anything that you've used in Safari where you have saved your password or username, and it's going to let you, and Apple does this for you, they're going to let you know if that account has been compromised, where maybe that account is on the dark web, where maybe some imposters have taken that information and has used it. So you may not see this, and if you don't see this, it may be simply because you have turned autofill off. That doesn't mean you're free and you're safe. This is a nice feature that Apple provides just to make sure they buy all these secret dark web lists of accounts that have been compromised so they can help their users. And this is one of them. So once you do that, you can actually look, and as you check that list, this is a great sign to now go reset those passwords. You should really be going through that. So hopefully you don't, but if you do, don't feel bad. Just go list by list and go to each website, even if you don't use it anymore. Now, what if you use Android? Well, don't fret. Android, this is how you would do it. You go to Settings, System, Language and Input, Advanced Autofill Service, and tap the gear into the right icon. And then you just click check passwords. Go to password checkup. So it's a couple more steps, but since Android's tied with Google, they work great together. Current defense. We spoke about it before, about how we'd really want to look and hyper-analyze or hyper-review those web addresses. It's very important. So we're going to look at an example of a URL or web address. Now you notice here, Amazon.com. What's the key part we want to focus on? And it's that domain, Amazon.com. So we look at that, and then we see a page with a lot of good examples of URLs or domains. You see the example Amazon.com, Google.com, but let's just take Amazon.com for an example. And then we can see an example of not part of a proper domain. So let's zoom in into this. Part of a proper domain, simply Amazon.com. Amazon.com, simple. Something that would not be correct, Amazon.help.md. That .com is very important. It represents the commercial side of that business. It makes it legitimate. This is an account this is an address that's made up. So now with that in mind, we kind of know how to look into a domain and see if it looks real or fake. Let's see if we can put this into practice. So let's look at this in practice. Is this an email phishing attempt? It looks like it says SCE, Southern California Edison. Well, one thing we're supposed to do is remember, we have to figure out what that URL, that domain is. So a nice tip is to hover over the links that you see. In this case, log into my account. What do you see? You'll notice below, it gives you an address. Does it look like sce.com? Well, let's zoom in and we may notice it says envoyexpress.com with a lot of gibberish. This is a phishing attempt. Very simply, looks like something you're familiar with, looks like a possible bill. Come to find out, it's not. Let's try another one. Is this an email phishing attempt? Looks like Best Buy, something that we're familiar with. Again, what do? We hover over those links. If you hover over the link, you do notice, okay, is that bestbuy.com? Zoom in, we notice it's from click.emailinfo2.bestbuy. So you notice a pattern. By simply just hovering over that link, or if you have a iPhone or Android or a mobile device, you may have to click and hold it and it will pop up what that link is. It will expose if this is a real domain or URL. Let's look at another example, and this may get a little more trickier, so pay attention. Is this an email phishing attack? Looks like it's from UPS possibly. You notice it has a couple things. Now, remember, what are you supposed to do? Hover over the links. Well, let's look at one of the first links. UPS next day. If we hover over that, what do we get? It says www.ups.com. Now, wait a minute. Is that a bad domain or URL? No, this is correct. So bear in mind, this is a correct URL. Well, is there other links? What about if we hover down to the link below at the very bottom? We may notice, okay, wait a minute. Is this a good URL? Is this a good domain? Well, let's zoom in and let's consider it. Is this the delivery link we thought it would be? If we notice, it says behappy9.vn. Definitely not from UPS. You have to be very careful that you may get a cyber attack where you may have, and this is a phishing attack in particular, where you may have a good link and then you may have a bad link, and you have to make sure just because one is good, that doesn't increase its credibility. So you have to continue to be hyper aware of what those URLs are. Now, what about other areas? Times are changing. A lot of times emails, there's phishing attacks, but there are other platforms that are using the same principles to accomplish what they want. Now, it has the same goal, and what I'm talking about is social media. Now, you may notice social media, there are many that are using the same strategy that they was using in emails to attack and be a threat to our families. For instance, Instagram. You may notice phishing scams. They're using fake investments, fake collaboration requests. We've heard of some where they're fake scholarships. There's giveaways. They let you know that you could be a cybersecurity job role, or you could have crypto money. There's so many things that they're providing you, and these are all part of scams in Instagram. So you have to be very sensitive and very aware when you're getting these, and they're coming in different forms, and they're making new ones daily. So there's not a set one, but they're coming in different forms all the time. So we have to be agile when it comes to looking and researching these. So one is this. This is one that's been very common, where someone is claiming to be part of an investment firm, where if you give them $100, they're gonna triple your money, or actually they'll give you $1,000. They're gonna times 10 the amount of the return, just if you invest with them. And so this is an example. So please do not go here. This is a real example. It's public. You can go and you will see that Instagram, they can't even get this account suspended. But you'll notice that there'll be so many users that have fell victim because they have these videos. And what they do, they make these videos, they correspond back and forth until you gain trust with them. Then they persuade you to maybe send a video just to vouch for this new organization you want to join. And they want to make sure that you could upload a certain amount of video. That video may be that you gained this much money by inputting this much money. At that point though, then they send you a link. And that's why that hovering over the URL is so important, because they send you a link where they want you to then add your account to their account. And once you do that, they're promising you now you're going to also get your profits when we start making money. What they don't tell you is what they're really doing is taking over your account. And when they take over that account, they then send that video that you've made to all your friends, attempting to scam them also. So look what the link, if you don't cover that link and look at it well, look what you're getting. Can you see a difference? They're so well designed that it's very difficult to even see the difference between the two. That's why it's so important that you hover over the URL. You hover over that and figure out that's a good domain before you click and before you enter any information. So, or call Instagram. And if you're ever in doubt, if you receive a message like this from a friend claiming something and it's a video, before doing anything, call them. As simple as that. If it's too good to be true, it probably isn't. Again, as a reminder, why is cyber safety or cybersecurity important? Because we're more accessible than ever before with all the devices we have access to. They're very hard to tell if they're real or fake because they're so appealing, and now it's a big business. That's why it's a billion-dollar industry. And what are some of the common threats out there? Well, there's a ton of common threats, whether it's social media, whether it's just an email attack. But phishing, the theme of phishing is very common, where they're promising you money, promising you to fix something, or to getting you excited to take your information and use it for something wrong. And finally, how? Well, how do we protect ourselves and our family? It takes more than just a single product. It takes practicing and researching all these different things that may be included to keep your home, as we talked about, but keep you cyber safe. So how do we keep ourselves safe? It takes researching, it takes being hyper aware, and it also takes realizing that it's not a single product, but it is a practice when it comes to cyber safety.
All right, thanks, Josh. I'm going to go ahead and jump in on actual passwords. So what happens with this list is, if you're looking at this list and you're thinking, how did he get my password? Hopefully you're not thinking that. But if you are, how did I get your password? Well, I got your password because what the FBI did was the FBI has actually purchased the biggest data breaches off the dark web, like everybody else can purchase. Or they got them somehow. I don't know that they exactly, used a credit card and bought them off the dark web, but they basically searched all the biggest hacks and they sorted them by password to figure out what were the most common passwords. These are the 14 top passwords being used in the country by people. This is for banks. This is for credit cards. This is for everything. So you look at that and you think, oh, that might be pretty easy to guess. And yes, you would be correct. Those are very easy to guess. So don't use that. Don't use a single word. Don't use your children's birthday. Don't use your children's name with the other kid's birthday. Don't use your dog's name plus a birthday. Just bad ideas. So I talked to you a little bit about the defenses. We've got a few things. One, verifying URLs, which Josh is going to talk to you a little bit about. Attachment hyper-awareness, like what kind of attachments are coming through. You'll often see things like, hey, I saw this photo of you, or hey, do you remember this picture? And you're like, oh, I'd like to relive my high school days. I wonder if there's one of my high school friends. I just don't recognize it. I'm going to click on that. Okay, no. If you don't know who sent it to you, and you don't have a really good idea what that is, do not click it. You can also call support. One of the things I like to do is if I get a email that looks like it's phishing, like from Best Buy or from Amazon, and it says, hey, you ordered this. I'm like, I don't remember ordering that. Well, a couple of things. I can go over to Amazon and click on my orders and make sure I did order it. Two, I can look for any 800 numbers that they list. If it says, please call us right away, if you take that number and put it into Bing or into Google or whatever your favorite search is, that number should come up as an Amazon number or as a Microsoft number or a Best Buy number. Also, actually clicking their support site or if Microsoft is telling you your computer is infected with viruses, call us right now and we'll fix it for you. Just go to Microsoft's website and find their tech support and call them and say, hey, I got this email or I got this pop-up saying you want me to call you. That's a great way to figure this out as well, to make sure you're not being hacked. That's a big one, which I don't know if Josh is covering later, but you just get this big pop-up that says, your computer has been compromised. Call us right now. And they get you to let them take over your computer. And they start clicking around places really bad, because then they're putting a little bit of software in your computer where they can take it over again later. Or maybe they're watching while you're banking. Lots of scary things they can do. So don't do that. There are 2 links here. And one of the things we are doing is at the very beginning of this presentation and at the very end, we're giving you a bit.ly, which is a link to this presentation. So if you missed some of these links, don't worry. You can go to the web address at the very end, and I'll cover that in a bit. And you can go right through this and click all these links. So if I click Harvard, it brings me to what Harvard's information security, what they say you should do. So they talk about creating what's hard to guess, using 2-step. Things to avoid. This would be 4-digit dates. This would be the word password. Sports reference, like Dallas Cowboys forever, okay? Even though I love that password personally, not a good one to use. These are okay passwords, things like you take a word and you mix up that word a little bit, throw in some symbols and some numbers. That's a good way to go, not great. Better is a passphrase, and I'm going to show you a lot about this in just a few moments, about how to create a great passphrase and why it's so important. Then what they like the best is a password manager. So Harvard actually buys a product called LastPass for their entire staff. And what it does, it remembers all your passwords for you. But not only that, it creates really crazy, long, hard passwords for every website. And you can download it into your phone. So your phone has it, and your Mac and your PC. And that's a great way to manage your passwords. You only need to remember one really good one, and that's your password for the LastPass program. So I do like password managers. LastPass is a very good one, in my opinion. However, that's what Harvard recommends. But then, if you go back here, there's another one, and this is a strong password generator. And what the generator does, in just a moment I'll show you, but it has these where it sort of tells you, hey, it's sort of uncommon. This looks like someone was saying troubadour. A capital A sort of looks like a number 4. O's can look like zeros. But here's the problem. If you just swap some things out, see how this has 2 O's in it? I don't remember which one was the 0. Or like password, people will put a capital S or a 5 because it looks sort of like a capital S, or a capital B looks a lot like an 8. So not a bad way to do some exchanges. You just don't want it to be short, because if you look right here, it tells you this takes 3 days at 1,000 guesses a second. So a good computer programmer who has a hacking program will actually in 3 days be able to guess this password. But you go down here, correct horse battery staple. You're like, why do those 4 go together? They don't, which is the point. But you pick 4 random words that you think you can remember, and you write those down somewhere, not under your keyboard, not as a post-it number, under post-it mark, under your keyboard. But correct horse battery staple, you're like, oh, that's a little easier to remember than, I think this is troubadour and 3. But this takes 550 years for a computer program to guess. They're never guessing it, right? So this is what you need to do. And what the site does is the site allows you to create your own passwords. So if I go up here and I tell it, hey, I want you to use 4 words. I want to capitalize the first letter, and I want to add a digit, because what you're going to find on some of your websites, it's going to say you have to have a digit, you have to use capital and lowercase, or you have to have a special character. So I'm going to click generate. Vigilant Intellect Remedy Potent 3. Okay, great. If I can remember that, or if I can write that down somewhere, that's an amazingly good password. And if it really needs to have a special character, I can find an A, like in vigilant, and I can turn it into an @ sign. Or I can find an I. Now, there's a lot of I's in here. I'm not going to do the I. But you can find an O. There's only one there in potent, and I can turn that into a 0. Or at the very end, I can just put an exclamation mark, because it's already 550 years for someone to hack this password. Throwing an exclamation mark on the end doesn't make it any easier for someone. So 3 exclamation, vigilant intellect remedy potent 3. Vigilant intellect remedy potent 3. I can probably remember that after trying it a few times, right? So that's one of the many ways you can defend yourself, is just by having an amazing password. Damage control. What do you do in the event something happens? You get hacked, you find out. I personally have identity theft insurance, so I pay about $160 a year for a family of 4. If I ever find out I've been hacked and I have an identity theft problem, they will pay for all of it. I just turn it over to them. They solve it all. It's like $2 million of coverage. Their lawyers get involved. They take care of it. There are places like Credit Karma you can use, and you can log in and see what's going on with your credit score. That one's free. I also have gone to my 3 credit bureaus, and I have frozen all 3 accounts for myself and my wife. And as soon as my son turns 18, I will freeze his. Now, is it inconvenient when I go to buy a new phone? Like I usually go about 3 iterations of iPhone, and then I've had it for 4 years or 5 years, and I want a new one. I go to buy a new phone. It wants to pull my credit. So then I have to go on to all 3, Experian, Credit, TransUnion, and I forget the third one. Anyway, you go on all 3 of them and you unfreeze it. And it takes a little while. You have to have a PIN number and all that stuff, but it's fine. It takes like 5 minutes to unfreeze mine, 5 minutes to unfreeze my wife's, maybe 10. Then I go to Verizon, we get qualified, then I come back and I refreeze them. That makes it so no one can take a loan out in your name. No one can get a credit card in your name. That's a great way to do it. The other thing is changing your passwords frequently and not having the same password for multiple accounts. Again, bank, credit card, main email address should all be incredibly complicated, and then a different incredibly complicated one for your other stuff. The other thing is 2-factor authentication. Hopefully your bank or your email account or other accounts you have, credit card accounts, if you've logged in, it's asked you to set up 2-factor authentication. It might be called MFA, multi-factor authentication, but it basically means they're going to send your phone a code when you try and log in. So I try and log into my bank and it says, we just sent you a code. You say, oh, okay. And then you type that code in. Now you can get into your bank. What that means is the bad guys, if they get a hold of your username and your password, cannot go steal all your money because they don't have your phone. So if they can't get to your phone, now, if they can get to your email and you set up 2-factor authentication to send a code to your email, that doesn't help you very much. So that's why it's super important that your main email address, your bank, and your credit cards all have really, really complicated passwords and 2-factor authentication that goes to your phone. So here's a couple things that I do at my home, because some of you are watching this because you're like, hey, I have students at home and they have an iPad, which our department has handed out. So I know you got a lot of iPads. What do you do with that? How do you protect it? Well, first of all, you can lock them up. Like, I am a huge fan of buying a safe for my home. And if a child decides to do something that they shouldn't be doing on that iPad, locking it up at night. And then I know they can't touch it because it's in a safe in my room. The other thing is this, see this white thing at the bottom that has all these little slots. So I have one of these actually at my house because I don't feel the need to lock it up. My kids have been pretty good and pretty trustworthy with devices. You can put all the devices and charge them at night, but I can just look at it and I know if one of them is missing. If each family member has a slot or 2 slots, that's a great way to go. The other way, I mean, and honestly, there's lots of things you can do as a parent to help monitor what your students are doing, especially on your home devices. You can look at filtering your home internet. You can talk to your internet provider. There are products you can purchase to do this. I would highly suggest looking at internet filters so you don't just have the whole world open to your students. Now, again, as Josh has mentioned, or actually I think I'm mentioning in just a moment, we do your traffic. So if your internet traffic on your student's iPad, when they're at home and they go on something, it actually comes back through our district and then back out to their iPad. So we're filtering their internet at all times. However, if they get on your home computer or their own personal phone, none of that is filtered unless you've purchased a filter. There are 3 links right here. So when you do go and log into this presentation, you've got 3 different links. If you click any of these, it is a link. And what this does is it takes you out to Parents Magazine. And this says these are their 7 favorite control apps. And as you scroll down, I'll tell you, oh, this is good for Android, this is good for PC, how much does it cost? And it tells you why. Like there's, Norton Family, Custodio, Screen Time. There's also PC Editor's Choice. So we wanted to give you that one too. And you look, oh, Norton's there again. Circle, I don't remember that. Oh, Custodio, Net Nanny. Oh, that might be new. Let's look at Very Well Family, see what they say. Well, they've got, oh, Custodio's their number 1. Bark, that one's new. Oh, Net Nanny, that was there before. So what you look at is you look at these websites and you do your own research and you see what is the best app for me and for my family to put on their phones or to put on their computers, so you have a really good idea of what they're up to, what websites they're going to, what their history is. A lot of these can even track their texting and tell you what they're saying in their texting. So that's a great way to go. How do we protect everyone in our district? A bunch of ways. We have firewalls. Josh, who's been on this with me, he's our director over cybersecurity networking. He handles all this. So he handles the firewall. This proxy filter I talked about, where technically all the internet traffic on those iPads and our laptops from our district come right back to our district and get filtered before the internet comes back. Data backups for ransomware attacks. So we can get attacked, but if someone tries to hold us for ransom and says, "Ooh, we have all your staff data and their social security numbers," we already have backups of all that, so we don't have to pay ransom. And then we teach every student digital citizenship lessons, 3 per year, from kindergarten all the way through 8th grade, and we build on the topics each year. So by the time your student goes out of 8th grade, they've had 27 lessons on being a good digital citizen, how to be safe online, and things like that. A little bit of homework for you all at the end of this video. 1, take that quiz. I'm going to show you the QR codes in just a minute. 2 is to change any passwords that are more than 6 months old and turn on that 2-factor authentication. Lastly is research student software for your students. Research software to track them and to track their online activity. Okay. So we went over the why, the what, and the how. And again, we want to show you down there at the bottom that bit.ly, bit.ly/3LYR320. It says right there, that is a 0. And then you can use the phishing quiz, do it with family and friends. But this website is our entire presentation. So, if you missed something as you were clicking through, that's fine. You can just go to this website and not worry about writing it down, or about to rewind and find all those websites. Just go here and you'll have all of our presentation. You can click everywhere you want. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you need myself or Josh to come out to your PTA meetings or to a DLAC meeting or to anything at your school, and you want a little more information or you want us to dig deeper, you can get a hold of the district office. We are the IIS department for innovation and instructional support. And we can book some time to come out and chat with large groups. Okay. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed it.